Hi, this is Paul Ice from Table Soccer USA. Today I want to share with you some tips for table design and building your own table. We'll hopefully have some other materials to support this in detail for you, but I wanted to give you a little video tutorial on some tips that I've picked up from building a whole bunch of tables. When building a table, the most important thing is that we can get a reliable flat surface to lay your pitch down on. And the material that I use pretty much all the time right now is one called medium density fiberboard, or for short it's known as MDF. You can get that at Lowe's or at your local, whatever local hardware store that you have, Home Depot, etc. The thickness that I'm using pretty much now is a 3/4 inch thickness. I find that 1/2 inch you can probably get away with that if you can find it in your hardware store, but 3/4 inch is definitely preferable. Just gives you that extra strength and again keeps the surface nice and flat. MDF is definitely, in my opinion, after building a number of boards, the way to go. It is very heavy. That's one definite drawback with it, but it does resist warping, and that's a key element for your board. If you have an Astro pitch you spent $90, $80, $100 on, and then the surface warps, you're going to be pretty upset with that. So MDF is the way to go that I've found. Some people use chipboard, and I've heard of people using that, and I have noted that a lot of those do warp over time. Any moisture at all, even atmospheric moisture in a room will have an adverse effect over time. So this is what I strongly recommend. When you go to the hardware store, I recommend that you get them to cut it for you if at all possible, and the dimensions depend on your playing surface to start with. A typical playing surface, you want to measure it before you get any board cut. This Astro pitch here, and please do measure yours individually because they can vary by an inch or two. This one measures going across the width of the field here. It measures about 34 inches, and the length of the surface, and I'm going through my offcut of the board here, goes to about 54 inches. What I did when I went to the hardware store, MDF comes in sheets of 8 foot by 4 feet, and I had it cut to dimensions that left a couple of inches on either side of the surface, and that's all the way around, like a warming track kind of approach here. But that is actually very important for play. You want to have enough room for the players to be able to come off. You want to give your hands a position so that they can flick the figure here at the side, and I found that allowing this 2 inches around the entire surface is the optimum situation for playing the game effectively. So for this board, for example, I had the MDF cut to 58 inches, I believe, by 40 inches, and that allowed for these 2 inches around for my board. Once I'd had that cut, by the way, the red color is from me just painting it with a roller on here around the outside before I stuck down the surface. For the outside, for the surround part, what I used here, and I've actually painted this black, is some basic pine wood here that I had cut. It looks like it's about 1.5 inches in depth here, and then a little less than 1 inch in width for this pine. And pretty much you don't want to go much wider or higher than that because that can impede your hand position when you're playing the game. So you don't want a really high surround here because it can affect your hand position. I found this to be a really good dimension, works really well. You might be able to find, there's certainly some flexibility with that you could work around with your own table and dimensions and materials. At the back of the pitch, we have here a goal area. One critical thing is you've got to have enough room for goaltending and also not hurting your hands. If you're moving the goalkeeper, you want to have a wide enough area. Behind the goals, what I've done typically and found that works best is that a 9 to 10 inch open area here is optimum for being able to do effective goalkeeping and still allow you to keep the figures on the field as you're playing the game. A couple of other extra things that I've done is here on the side I've made a little angled cut on both sides, and then I've gone to the trouble of actually sanding and smoothing this area around here so that if you do jam your hand on the side you don't cut yourself or hurt your hand. So that's a couple of little tips in those areas. Well, I've got your attention. I wanted to show you, maybe at a future time we'll talk about sticking down a pitch. If your pitch doesn't have an adhesive backing and you have an Astro pitch that you want to stick down, the product that I've used for that, and we'll probably talk about this at another time, is a 3-amp product called High Strength 90 that you can see right here. And this, I've stuck down a lot of my Astro pitches down if you want to keep them down all the time and permanently affix them to a board. Okay, that's a couple of tips that I wanted to share with you to get the most out of your Astro pitch if you're building a board. I guess the final thing I could say is that to support your surface, you might want to purchase a table such as the one I'm showing here, the gray table. These come in a height of about 34 inches or so, which is pretty good for playing table soccer and fairly comfortable height. You can get these from like a Staples or Office Depot, typically for $40 to $50. Another option though might be to go with some sawhorses to support your table, and here I have a set of sawhorses that one advantage here is that they can be set to go a little bit higher, so 35, 36 inches might be even more comfortable if you got any back problems or you're particularly tall. Might be good for playing the game. So a set of sawhorses that are adjustable are a real good idea. Of course, you can get them from any hardware store. I know though that Sears have a product that they produce that is a set height of sawhorses that you can pick up for maybe $20 or so for a pair, that are at a height of about 34, 35 inches, so that's a pretty good option. These might be a little bit more, but that adjustable feature is a good thing. But these are a couple of options for supporting your table, the sawhorses, or we could use like the Staples type gray table over here. Okay, I think that'll do it for now. Hopefully we'll have some more products to talk about and support the table building questions that you may have, but I hope you picked up a couple of pointers right there. Thank you.